Welcome back to Crowd Control. This is our first Crowd
Yes.
Control post-Gen Con.
Oof, and we're back.
The dust is settled.
Yes.
Campaigns are aplenty.
Yes.
There's some that launched during Gen Con. We might even talk about a couple of
There were
those.
some that were at Gen Con, not only just games that are on right now, but there were also a lot of booths showing what was coming for the rest of the year, which was really cool.
And stuff that had delivered or was about to deliver.
That's true.
Gen Con was exciting,
That's
but
very true.
we're not here to talk about Gen Con. We're here to talk about all the things going on in crowdfunding. We're going to start with a handful of games that are running,
Yeah.
and then we're going to talk about a couple new ones this week.
Let's talk about one that took me completely by surprise because I was not aware of this one at all before it went live. And I want to get this right. It was Bear Mountain Adventure Camping.
Something like that. Bear Mountain
Camping Adventure.
He
Bear
got it
Mountain
wrong.
Camping
We're going to
Adventure. This game looks awesome. I mean, and I was not expecting how cool this game looks.
Yeah, no, this is, I think, a first-time publisher. It's at least their first campaign, according to Kickstarter. And it looks like they're doing everything right, which I always appreciate when I see someone coming out of nowhere with a new game, and it's like they are clearly a gamer who've appreciated the finer production of other games that have come before theirs. The graphic design looks good.
Oh my gosh.
The game
map, the board map looks phenomenal.
The production value, everything they're putting into it, they're saying all the right things. And mechanically, I don't know how much you've looked into this.
It looks very unique.
It has what they call dual deck building.
Right, you're deck building two different kinds of decks that are kind of like your activities that you're doing while you're camping, and you need to balance them because you're drawing two from each deck every time. So you kind of have to decide as you're drafting which deck you want cards to go into, which is very unique.
And it looks like you're using a combination. Again, I am literally reporting on a GIF that I saw.
Well, there wasn't.
But it
there
looks
wasn't a
like
lot.
you're gathering some resources.
Yep.
You're using a mix of those resources and some of the printed resources on those cards to interact with the main board and actually achieve activities in different locations.
Yeah, you're doing activities on the board, but the main thing you're doing is moving from location to location, effectively moving from campsite to campsite, trying to be the first to get to the mountain. And I think actually there's you can even climb the mountain with some of the cards, which is that's a cool idea. I think it hits the theme really well, and the packaging looks phenomenal. There's already expansions, of course, that were stretch goals that look really good.
They had the base pledge. They have a bunch of retail pledges, but then they all in had, I think, like 3 little expansions going on with it. But
yeah, and
looks
you can get it all on the end. The price is right. The game looks sweet, so definitely worth mentioning.
The next one we want to talk about is not a board game.
Oh,
this is
that's
something
true.
that's more up Ryan's alley typically. Although the look and feel,
I was
the
going to
look
say.
and feel of it is what got me. I don't want to mispronounce this, so I'm going to pick up this card. Obojima,
Obojima, yep.
Tales from the Tall Grass. This is a 5th edition role-playing
D&D 5th edition system.
Yeah, D&D 5th edition system. That's kind of set in a world that feels inspired by Miyazaki films, a little bit of Zelda, but I haven't dug into it significantly, but it looks like it's mostly inspired visually by those things.
Well, visually and thematically.
And thematically, but I don't know, obviously I don't know the gameplay significantly, but those worlds don't, well, Zelda does, but like the Miyazaki stuff doesn't have a lot of combat going on, so I'm not sure.
I don't think this game will. You've combat in the strictest sense of sure, there's monsters in Miyazaki's world. It's there's battles, there's combat. We see it,
Yeah, there's some more than others.
You see it, some more than others, definitely. And also just that idea of exploring this cozy world, wandering around and meeting the interesting locals. And in this game, you're doing a lot of potion making and brewing and going out and trying to collect ingredients and mix those together. And that I think is very much kind of the way the new Zelda games feel.
Yeah.
Of just explore. This is the kind of game that doesn't want you to just do a story like maybe some D&D campaigns do. This is more just get out there, explore this world, and in this just beautiful accessories that come with this game. You can get the deluxe all-in, which is almost this giant box that has cards and tokens and just everything you could possibly need.
It feels all-encompassing, that box. I like the idea of that. And again, the visuals here kind of steal the show. I'm guessing that's why it's done as well.
You've seen all the card artwork and everything?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It evokes a lot of old RPGs from consoles and stuff like that, if you've played those. But yeah, as of recording this episode of Crowd Control, the thing just passed over $1 million.
I know, that is wild for an RPG of this scale.
And this is what, 1985
1985 games, which I think might be a tribute maybe to like the birth of those old,
maybe.
I mean, that's like right around the same time that video gaming kind of took off, so.
Hey, what's the next one we're going to talk about?
Oh, the next one we're going to talk about, this was actually one that we got to see, not just at Gen Con, we actually had it in set as well, and we actually did a video on it, and this is Mistwind. So if you want more than what we're going to talk about, Jeremy Howard and I did a whole breakdown of the game, but it is a very cool looking pick up and deliver game. It was a huge hit at Gen Con. People were just standing around the booth just because the table presence of this game and its giant flying whales is very cool.
Yeah, the giant flying whales, like from what we understand, it had a different theme. I think the new theme, if you click on the Kickstarter page and you see, okay, there's like flying whales with people, like, structures built on the backs of the whales. It's just a big hook that gets people interested. Mm-hmm. But I will say, and I played this with Jeremy and Ryan as well. I wasn't in the video. You're welcome. But it is probably one of the more innovative pick up and delivers. Pick up and deliver is not typically my thing. I don't think it's typically our thing, really.
I mean, it just depends on the game.
But this one was a pretty innovative pick up and deliver.
The action selection system, watch our video to get a bigger breakdown on that, but the action selection system is very unique. The theme is like nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredibly unique theme. And the gameplay was very satisfying in that, like, there's some network building that's happening there as well. So it's one of those games where from the start to the finish, you just have this very satisfying looking board that you've kind of filled up as you play. And it really does look good on the table. I think a lot of people that saw it at Gen Con are probably among those early backers because it's doing really well as well.
It is also, I think it's one of their most successful. This is First Fish Games. Yeah. And I think it's one of their more successful campaigns thus far. And it's still got several days. I think 20 days.
Oh, yeah. It just started while we were at Gen Con. So that was another one. So we've got a couple more that are launching this week. So you'll be able to watch out for those. But before we get to that, let's jump over to our newest contributor, Nelson. He's got something to say, too.
Hey, it's Nelson. I'm excited to talk to you all today about a game that has recently caught my attention called Ascendancy. So Ascendancy is a game where 4X has met worker placement, which is something that really excites me and not something that I've seen much of before. If you're unfamiliar with 4X games, they all have elements of exploring, where you're going to go out and like uncover new areas of the map, expanding, where you're going to discover those territories, your work to develop your settlements into the new lands, or quite literally build your settlements up taller in this game. There's like really cool like pieces that you can build and make your settlements physically larger. The third X is exploit. So in Ascendancy, players will be able to manipulate the economic state of the game to catapult either themselves to victory or to crush their opponent's chances of rising to the top. And then finally, exterminate, that fourth X. So a Civilization style game like this would not be complete without combat. Players are going to face off against each other, as well as any treacheries that the world may throw their way. One of the cooler things about Ascendancy that I'm really interested in is that it allows players to choose their own adventure, either over a single session or a multi-branching campaign. It has solo, co-op, team variants, and a free-for-all competitive mode, which means that you'll basically be able to experience the game in any way that fits your group. I'm a huge fan of worker placement games, and I've always wanted to try more 4X games, so that's why Ascendancy has recently caught my attention. See you around.
Thanks again to Nelson. He was actually just recently here, and if you haven't seen it already, our Gen Con sort of recap, our top insert number here, things that we experienced or saw at Gen Con video. Ryan and Nelson and I sat down and went through that and talked ad nauseum.
It's always a lot of fun.
All the things at Gen Con.
A lot of fun having Nelson on set.
But like Ryan said earlier, we've got two more to talk about. These are going to be launching this week. One is Perch from Inside Up Games, and the other one is Joyride from Rebellion Unplugged. Ryan, we've played Perch.
We've played Perch, and I saw Joyride at Gen Con. There was another one that looked very cool.
We have Joyride, as you can see right behind us. Although it's time of recording of this right now, we have not played it quite yet.
We will, because we're going to be doing content on these. We're not going to be talking about them a ton, but we got to play Perch at Adam this past year. We went there for Inside Up Games and got to play it. Very mean bird game. It is a mean bird game. It is a very mean bird game.
And by that, he doesn't mean mean birds.
No.
He means it's a bird game that is mean.
Yeah, they called it Mean Birds because the other one was copywritten. No, it's a game where you're doing area control, but you're placing not just your birds. All the players' birds are put into a bag, and you're drawing out the ones that you're going to place. So you might be placing yours. you might be placing your opponents. Some of the areas you want to control because they're worth positive points. Some of the areas you don't want to control because they could be worth less points if you control them, and maybe the person with the lowest there gets the most points. So there's this constant balance of like trying to control the areas you want to while sticking your opponents with the areas they don't want to, and it can get pretty mean. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it.
It's even more nuanced than that because, like, imagine, if you will, a location where you don't want to be winning it, you don't want to be losing it, but you might want to be in the middle of it. So there's a lot of head games, so that kind of opens up a lot of design space for you placing not only yours but other players' birds out there. So yeah, we'll have more content.
There's a lot more going on than just that, but that's the basic. So watch the video to get more.
And Joyride, I know even less about, but I was really excited to take a look at this one at Gen Con, and we did take a brief look at it. They handed over their prototypes so that we could do some content for them on it.
It looks awesome. It looks like the zany kart racing you'd experience from Mario Kart.
Yeah,
everyone's zooming around, items flying everywhere.
I've seen a demo on another video of the game where they themselves, I think, said the best way to describe it is like Mario Kart on the table. But the art style is what really drew me in. It's got this really, really awesome art style with the cars, the board, all the items, the player boards, which is basically like the dashboard of a car, are all unique. They didn't just repurpose them. They put a lot of effort into this art with a little like rear view mirror that shows your character, kind of looking back in it. But the game is kind of like you're just driving around trying to wreck each other. I mean, that's really it. And the mechanics are streamlined, but not terribly simple. So you're going to be using dice to move around, and you can actually lock some of your dice between turns so that if you really like those values, you can okay, I'm going to lock some of those, and you can just reuse those. But as your car takes damage, you're going to lose some of the places on your player board to use those dice.
That's the cool part to me.
Some of those locked spaces might get damaged, so then you can't lock as many dice. So then you're up to chance a little bit more. You might lose some of your gears, and you're going in just second gear the whole time. So it's got a lot of interesting things going on, and I think we have actually a 4-player prototype, or a 3 to 4 player, and then they actually have a secondary option that was probably on the Kickstarter going to be an add-on or potentially more content that is 2-player specific, that comes with a
smaller one,
a 2-player board with slightly adjusted things going on for the 2-player game.
I'm really excited to dig our hands into that. I mean, we've got a ton of Gen Con stuff coming up, but that's one that I really want to get to play.
Yeah, we will have a lot more Gen Con content from games that we are able to grab while we're there coming up soon. But yes, that is it for this episode of Crowd Control and what's been going on and what's coming up this week. We'll be back next week with even more. We already know some of the stuff we're going to be covering.
We're getting back into another big curve of crowdfunding.
But you'll have to come back next week to hear what those games are. Until next time, though, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.